The most painful thing about being married to a narcissistic person is not the arguments. It is the moment you realize you have been fighting for a connection with someone who has been fighting to protect their own image. A narcissistic wife may not always look cruel. Sometimes she appears loving, caring, and even devoted. But behind closed doors, certain patterns can slowly destroy a husband's confidence, peace, and sense of self. Today, we will uncover 10 ways these behaviors often appear. If you have ever felt confused because your partner can be incredibly charming one moment and emotionally hurtful the next, this message is for you. The goal is not to attack or judge anyone. It is to understand the patterns that create emotional exhaustion inside a marriage. Because sometimes the hardest relationship to understand is the one where you keep giving love but keep feeling invisible. Stay until the end, because the final pattern is often the one that makes people question their own reality. Before we continue, take a moment and reflect. Have you ever felt like you were constantly trying to prove your love, your loyalty, or your worth inside your own marriage? If this message resonates with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Sometimes putting your experience into words is the first step toward understanding what is happening. A relationship becomes deeply exhausting when one person's emotions, desires, and experiences consistently take priority over the other person's. In a marriage with narcissistic patterns, the husband may begin to feel that everything revolves around his wife's needs, opinions, and feelings. Her happiness becomes the central focus, while his emotional world slowly moves into the background. At first, this dynamic may not be obvious. He may believe that being patient, understanding, and supportive is simply part of loving someone. But over time, he may notice that his own needs are rarely considered unless they align with what she wants. Every conversation may somehow return to her struggles, her frustrations, or her perspective. If he expresses hurt, the discussion may shift toward how his words affected her instead of addressing what caused his pain. If he shares a personal achievement, the attention may quickly move toward her accomplishments or her sacrifices. Gradually, he may feel like he is not being listened to, but simply serving as an audience for her emotional needs. The painful part is that the husband may start questioning himself. He may wonder if he is asking for too much, being too sensitive, or failing to understand her. This confusion can make him work harder to maintain harmony, constantly adjusting his behavior to avoid upsetting her. He may give more, compromise more, and suppress his own feelings, hoping that one day the relationship will become balanced. But a healthy marriage requires two people whose emotions matter. Love is not one person demanding to be understood while refusing to understand. True connection happens when both partners can express their needs, acknowledge each other's experiences, and create space for both voices to exist. When one person's identity dominates the relationship, the other person slowly loses the feeling of being valued, heard, and emotionally safe. Recognizing this pattern is not about blaming someone. It is about understanding the difference between genuine partnership and a relationship where one person is constantly carrying the emotional weight alone. A painful pattern in relationships with narcissistic traits is the way criticism can become a threat rather than an opportunity for growth. In a healthy marriage, both partners should be able to express concerns, share feelings, and discuss problems without fear of emotional punishment. But when someone struggles with a fragile sense of self, even simple feedback may feel like an attack on their identity. Instead of hearing the message behind the words, they may focus only on feeling criticized, disrespected, or challenged. A husband may approach a conversation with the intention of improving the relationship. He may calmly explain that something hurt him or that he wishes certain things could change. However, instead of engaging with the issue, his wife may immediately become defensive. The conversation may shift from the original problem to accusations about his character, his intentions, or his behavior. Suddenly, he is no longer discussing what happened. He is trying to prove that he is not a bad person. Over time, this pattern can create emotional exhaustion. The husband may begin avoiding important conversations because he already expects conflict. He may carefully choose his words, soften his concerns, or remain silent just to prevent an argument. Slowly, he may stop expressing his true feelings because honesty feels too risky. The deeper issue is that criticism, when handled with emotional maturity, is not a rejection of love. It is an invitation to understand each other better. Every person has flaws, and every relationship requires the ability to listen, reflect, and make adjustments. But when one partner views every concern as an insult, growth becomes almost impossible. The husband may eventually feel trapped between two painful choices: speak honestly and face conflict, or stay quiet and lose his own voice. A relationship cannot become emotionally secure when one person's need to always be right becomes more important than the need to understand each other. Real intimacy begins when both partners can admit imperfections without feeling that their entire worth is being questioned. One of the most damaging patterns in a relationship with narcissistic traits is the inability to accept responsibility when something goes wrong. In a healthy marriage, mistakes are not the end of the relationship. They are opportunities for understanding, growth, and rebuilding trust. Both partners can recognize when they have caused pain, offer a sincere apology, and work together to prevent the same problem from happening again. But when someone constantly avoids accountability, every conflict can become a battle of blame rather than a moment of connection. A husband may notice that whenever an issue arises, the focus quickly shifts away from his wife's actions and toward his reactions. Instead of hearing, "I understand why that hurt you," he may hear explanations about why he caused the problem, why he misunderstood, or why he should not feel the way he feels. The original concern becomes buried beneath excuses, accusations, or attempts to redirect responsibility. Over time, this pattern can make a husband question his own perception. He may start replaying conversations in his mind, wondering if he was actually wrong or if he somehow created the conflict. When this happens repeatedly, he may begin taking responsibility for things that do not belong to him simply to restore peace. He may apologize just to end the argument, even when he still feels hurt and unheard. The deeper issue is that accountability requires emotional strength. It requires a person to look honestly at their behavior without seeing mistakes as a threat to their identity. A partner who can say, "I was wrong and I want to do better," creates safety and trust in a marriage. But when one person always needs to be innocent and the other person is always expected to carry the blame, the relationship becomes emotionally unbalanced. The husband may feel like he is constantly repairing damage he did not create. A healthy marriage is not built on perfection. It is built on two people who are willing to face their imperfections together and take responsibility for the impact they have on each other. A gradual loss of appreciation can be one of the most confusing and painful experiences in a relationship with narcissistic traits. In the beginning, a husband may feel deeply valued. He may receive admiration, affection, and attention that makes him believe he has found someone who truly understands him. But over time, the dynamic may change. The same person who once made him feel special may begin focusing more on his flaws, mistakes, and weaknesses than on the qualities she once admired. This shift can be emotionally damaging because the husband may continue searching for the version of the relationship that existed in the beginning. He may work harder, give more, and try to become the person he believes his wife wants him to be. But instead of feeling appreciated, he may experience a constant sense of not being enough. Compliments may become rare, while criticism becomes frequent. His efforts may be ignored, minimized, or treated as expected rather than meaningful. A husband in this situation may start losing confidence in himself. When someone repeatedly hears that they are disappointing, inadequate, or failing, those messages can slowly influence how they see their own value. He may begin seeking approval, trying to prove his worth, or changing parts of himself just to receive basic acceptance. The deeper issue is that love cannot survive when admiration is replaced by constant devaluation. A healthy relationship allows both people to recognize each other's strengths while also addressing weaknesses with kindness and respect. Constructive feedback helps a person grow, but repeated criticism designed to make someone feel small creates emotional distance. The most important realization is that a person's value should not depend entirely on another person's approval. A strong marriage is not built by one partner constantly trying to earn appreciation from the other. It is built when both people choose to respect, encourage, and support each other. When a husband feels that he must constantly prove his worth to receive love, the relationship may no longer feel like a partnership. It may feel like a never-ending test he is trying to pass. One of the most emotionally exhausting experiences in a relationship with narcissistic traits is feeling like you are constantly walking on eggshells. Instead of feeling free to express thoughts, emotions, or concerns, a husband may find himself carefully monitoring every word, every action, and every decision because he fears how his wife might react. The relationship begins to feel less like a place of comfort and more like a place where he is always trying to avoid triggering conflict. At first, he may not recognize what is happening. He may tell himself that every couple has disagreements and that being patient is part of commitment. But over time, he may notice a pattern where small issues create intense reactions. A simple question, a different opinion, or a request for understanding may suddenly turn into anger, defensiveness, or emotional distance. The husband may start changing his behavior, not because he truly agrees, but because he wants to maintain peace. This constant emotional uncertainty can create anxiety inside the relationship. He may begin predicting moods, choosing silence over honesty, and putting aside his own feelings to prevent tension. Eventually, he may become disconnected from his authentic self because so much energy is spent managing the emotional environment around him. The painful part is that emotional safety is one of the foundations of a healthy marriage. Both partners should feel they can make mistakes, express concerns, and have different opinions without fearing punishment or rejection. Disagreements are normal, but a relationship becomes unhealthy when one person feels responsible for controlling the other person's emotions. The husband may eventually realize that love should not require constant fear of saying the wrong thing. A strong relationship allows two people to exist as individuals while still caring deeply for each other. When someone feels they must shrink themselves, hide their emotions, or carefully navigate every interaction just to keep the peace, the relationship loses the freedom and trust that genuine connection requires. Understanding this pattern can help a person recognize the importance of emotional boundaries and mutual respect. One of the most confusing experiences in a relationship with narcissistic traits is when a person appears completely different in public than they do in private. To the outside world, a narcissistic wife may seem charming, caring, supportive, and even like the perfect partner. Friends and family may see someone who is kind, generous, and emotionally intelligent, but behind closed doors, the husband may experience criticism, emotional distance, manipulation, or a lack of empathy that others never witness. This contrast can leave the husband feeling isolated because the person he struggles with privately is not the same person everyone else sees. When he tries to explain his experience, he may worry that others will not believe him because they only know the public version of his wife. He may hear statements like, "She seems so nice," or "I never imagined she would act that way," which can make him question whether his own feelings are valid. Over time, this difference between public behavior and private behavior can create deep emotional confusion. The husband may wonder why someone who can be so warm and impressive around others can become so dismissive or hurtful in personal moments. He may spend years trying to understand the contradiction, hoping that the caring person he sees in public will eventually become consistent in private. The important thing to understand is that appearances do not always reveal the full reality of a relationship. A person's character is not only shown by how they treat strangers or how they behave when others are watching. It is also revealed by how they treat the person closest to them when there is no audience. A healthy marriage requires consistency, honesty, and emotional safety, both privately and publicly. Love should not feel like living with two different versions of the same person. When a husband constantly feels unseen because others only recognize the public image, the emotional burden can become extremely heavy. Recognizing this pattern allows him to pay attention not only to what others observe, but also to what he personally experiences inside the relationship. One of the most painful patterns in a relationship with narcissistic traits is when love and affection begin to feel conditional. Instead of feeling like a steady source of connection and security, affection may seem available only when the husband behaves in a way that meets his wife's expectations. When he agrees with her, supports her image, or gives her the attention she desires, the relationship may feel warm and peaceful. But when he expresses disagreement, sets boundaries, or fails to provide the validation she seeks, he may experience emotional distance, withdrawal, or punishment. This creates a confusing emotional environment because the husband may begin associating love with approval rather than genuine connection. He may start thinking, "If I say the right thing, do the right thing, or avoid upsetting her, everything will be okay." Slowly, he may become focused on earning affection instead of simply receiving it as part of a healthy partnership. The silent treatment is one example of a behavior that can create emotional pressure. Instead of discussing hurt feelings or disagreements openly, one partner may withdraw communication and affection to make the other person feel anxious, guilty, or responsible for fixing the situation. The husband may find himself chasing a conversation, apologizing repeatedly, or taking blame just to restore emotional closeness. Over time, this pattern can affect a person's sense of security within the marriage. He may feel that love can disappear at any moment and that he must constantly prove his value to keep the relationship stable. This can create stress, self-doubt, and emotional exhaustion. Healthy love does not disappear whenever someone has a different opinion or makes a mistake. Strong relationships are built on communication, forgiveness, and the ability to remain connected even during conflict. A partner should not have to sacrifice their voice, needs, or identity to receive basic affection. When love becomes something that must constantly be earned, the relationship stops feeling like a safe place and begins to feel like an emotional negotiation. True connection comes when both people can be honest, imperfect, and still feel respected and valued. One of the most damaging patterns in a relationship with narcissistic traits is the creation of confusion through mixed messages. A husband may experience moments where his wife appears loving, caring, and deeply connected, followed by moments where she becomes distant, critical, or emotionally unavailable. This unpredictable pattern can leave him constantly trying to understand what changed and what he needs to do to bring back the warmth he experienced before. At times, she may show affection and make him feel appreciated, giving him hope that the relationship is improving. But then, without clear explanation, the emotional atmosphere may shift. Small disagreements may suddenly become major conflicts, or moments of closeness may be replaced by coldness and withdrawal. The husband may begin searching for answers, analyzing every conversation, and questioning whether he caused the change. This inconsistency can create a powerful emotional attachment because the positive moments feel especially meaningful after periods of distance. The husband may focus on the loving version of his wife and believe that if he tries harder, communicates better, or becomes more understanding, that version will return permanently. He may hold on to the hope of restoring the connection while ignoring the emotional cost of constantly living with uncertainty. The problem with mixed messages is that they prevent emotional stability. A healthy relationship requires trust, predictability, and the feeling that both partners can rely on each other even during difficult moments. Conflict is normal, but emotional connection should not feel like something that appears and disappears without explanation. Over time, the husband may lose confidence in his own feelings because he is constantly trying to interpret the relationship. He may wonder if he is overreacting, being too sensitive, or expecting too much. This confusion can make it difficult to recognize his own emotional needs. A loving partnership should not leave someone constantly guessing where they stand. Genuine connection is built through consistency, honesty, and mutual effort. When a person's affection and approval feel unpredictable, the relationship can become emotionally exhausting rather than emotionally nourishing. Understanding this pattern helps a person recognize the importance of stability, respect, and clarity in a healthy marriage. The most important thing to understand about a relationship affected by narcissistic patterns is that emotional pain does not always come from obvious conflict. Sometimes, the deepest wounds come from slowly losing your sense of being heard, respected, and valued. A husband may spend years trying to fix problems, communicate better, give more love, and become more patient, believing that eventually the relationship will feel balanced. But a healthy marriage cannot be built by one person constantly sacrificing themselves while the other person refuses to recognize their impact. The behaviors discussed are not about labeling or attacking someone. They are about recognizing patterns that can create emotional exhaustion, confusion, and loneliness inside a relationship. When blame replaces accountability, criticism replaces encouragement, and control replaces understanding, the connection between two people begins to suffer. A strong relationship requires two people who are willing to reflect, grow, and take responsibility. Love is not measured by how much pain someone can tolerate or how much of themselves they can give away. Love is found in mutual respect, emotional safety, honesty, and the freedom to be yourself without fear of rejection. If you find yourself constantly questioning your worth, walking on eggshells, or feeling like you must earn basic kindness, it may be time to look deeper at the patterns surrounding you. Your feelings matter, your experiences matter, and your emotional well-being deserves attention. The goal is not to create anger or resentment. The goal is awareness. Because when you understand what is happening, you can make healthier choices, establish stronger boundaries, and reconnect with the person you were before you started losing yourself in the struggle to be understood. A relationship should be a place where two people grow together, not a place where one person disappears so the other person can feel powerful.